如有需要，请持证件至场外柜台换取耳机，中文为第1频道，英文为第2频道。Distinguished guests, welcome to the EU Investment Forum 2020. The forum will begin shortly. Please be seated and turn off your cell phone or switch it to silent. We will provide simultaneous interpretation service in the morning. Please bring your photo ID to the front desk in exchange for the device. Please turn to Channel 1 for Chinese and Channel 2 for English. 虽然我们在台湾可以起集会，我们的防疫成果是有目共睹，但是还是要在这边提醒大家，保持社交距离，拱手不握手，并请佩戴口罩。Although Taiwan is doing a great job in controlling the pandemic, we still want to remind you to keep social distance, do not shake hands, and please wear the facial mask. 接下来我们将播放介绍欧盟的影片，请看。Next, we would like to play a video about investing in the EU. Please enjoy.
Many of the Taiwanese companies are now rethinking their global supply chains. The European Union, with 27 member states and 450 million population, is there waiting for the Taiwanese investments and offering a good business opportunity to them.
我们可以看到世界很多顶尖的这些企业，大部分都在欧洲。所以它有这样子市场的磨练的这种机会。
欧洲应该是全球算是一个非常创新的区域，好，非常创新。我想创新就是说，我想研华在那边设点，除了我们要做欧洲生意之外呢，也希望说借由跟当地的客户、伙伴一起的沟通合作，可以让我们就是我们在台湾可以吸收到更多新创的 idea。我想这是非常重要。
欧盟呢，他们对这个环境的保护。节约的能源，这一个利用再生能源等等方面呢，的确是领头羊。像在荷兰呢，他们呢也有推展这个绿建筑。所以呢，能够跟欧盟这些国家一起，除了做生意以外呢，也可以学到很多环境的保护。那我们从这里面呢，也发现了很多的商机，所以呢，一面做环保，一面呢也推广我们自己的产品。
欧洲是一个多个国家所组合起来的一个贸易体，那相对的呢，它在各个国家之间的文化接受度其实也是相对高的。对欧洲市场来说，相对全世界，我认为它是一个很好的市场，因为欧洲市场对于最高端的技术的接受度是最高的，而且呢，当地的工程师所具备的一个技术也很高，因此呢，在一个自动化方案再提供给欧洲，我觉得是一个最好的一个市场。在
地市上，欧洲有非常多的大客户，那这些客户呢是需要有当地人，不管讲一样的语言或者是文化，我们才有机会可以做到更大的生意。我想这是研华在那边设立分公司的初衷。
但是呢，如果说我们谈品牌，那就得要有分工跟接轨。所以在欧洲，我们着重的第一阶段一定是从服务、从通路把我们的品牌推进去。那我个人就将近30年在欧洲的生意经验，特别是在将近这10年的一个品牌的一个累积啊，我个人很遵守2个字，就是正直。也就是说，其实人跟人之间要建立一个长期的一个交互性应该还是你必须要先 keep honest。你自己如果够正直，那你也敢去要求对方有一个对等嘛。那至于文化啦、生活那一些，我们都必须 respect。但是我相信正直就是一条很清楚的一条线。
总而言之，这个整个欧洲方面这一次来讲 ，COVID-19 的影响是非常剧烈的。但是相对来讲，这是台湾企业的机会，你可以到当地去找你的各地的标的物，或者当地去找你的合资机会。
前进欧盟，连接未来世界， Go Europe!
我们台达电子集团呢，是在1980年代就先到英国。为什么到英国呢？因为那个时候我们其中一个客户是 IBM， 他们在英国呢有需要当地的需求，所以刚开始的时候呢，苏格兰、英格兰都有来邀请台湾的厂商到欧洲去做投资。台达集团的创办人郑先生呢，他从创办这一个集团开始，他就把这个节能、环保、爱地球呢，一直鼓励所有的同仁，就朝这个方向的去发展。欧盟呢，他们对这个环境的保护、节约的能源，这一个利用再生能源等等方面呢，的确是领头羊。像在荷兰呢，他们呢也有推展这个绿建筑。所以呢，能够跟欧盟这些国家一起，除了做生意以外呢，也可以学到很多环境的保护。那我们从这里面呢，也发现了很多很多的商机。所以呢，一面做环保，一面呢也推广我们自己的产品。以前我们所知道的这个路灯呢，它是很耗电的，传统式的。那我们现在把它改成 LED。那这些路灯呢，当然你还可以装置很多，譬如说城市的监控，还有做网络的系统，然后再加上这个电动车的充电站等等。我想呢，这个一根电线杆呢，它可以变成很多多功能的用途。欧洲它有很多的优势，譬如说它的科技产品的制造领域，他们有他们的文化，他们有他们的供应链，可以跟这些大厂一起合作，共同成长。那我想走向国际化这一点呢，是蛮重要的。在当地并购了这一家公司，那原先的团队都有把它保留。那尊重当地的文化，因为当地的文化他们绝对比我们更清楚、更懂的。那大家必须要包容，把这些文化、产品、制造、公司的这些哲学，大家有一定的共识，那它成长的就更快。我想我们呢，台商呢，可以跟着这些国际的巨人一起来成长。那这些呢，你要让客户放心安心，觉得你的科技的能量非常的棒，他就愿意来跟你合作。尊重当地文化，共创双赢。
看完了2支影片，在我们今天投资欧盟论坛，除了论坛本身，我们场外还有投资展、欧盟15个会员国以及经济部投资业务处、外贸协会等单位都特别设有摊位，提供投资欧洲的第一手资料。欢迎待会儿大家可以抽空前往交流。In addition to this forum, we also have an investment exhibition, and this is an investment tour. So you're welcome to stop by. We have the 15 member states from the EU, and they have set up booths to provide the first-hand information about investing in Europe. 那我们今天的活动也非常精彩，同步除了在我们现场之外，还有在 YouTube 线上串流。所以除了我们现场的朋友之外，有兴趣对于投资欧洲、想要进军欧洲市场的朋友，都可以透过YouTube 同时来观赏我们的活动。 In addition to the physical venue that we are gathered here, we also provide live streaming of this event. So friends outside of this venue, if you're watching on YouTube, hello, and you're also welcome to learn more about the information about investing in Europe. 那我们再稍待一会儿，待会儿我们就有更多的贵宾一起加入我们的现场。各位贵宾，蔡英文总统莅临现场，请以热烈的掌声欢迎蔡总统。Distinguished guests, Her Excellency President Tsai Ing-wen has arrived. Please welcome President Tsai with a warm round of applause. 总统好。请就座 ，Please be seated. 各位贵宾，欢迎莅临投资欧盟论坛暨投资展。我是今天的司仪陈佩欣。Distinguished guests, welcome to the EU Investment Forum 2020. I'm today's MC, Betty Chan. 新冠疫情冲击全球，不只改变了我们的工作与生活方式，也对国际贸易造成重大影响。在全球供应链重组之际，为了能够超前部署、因应变局，今天的论坛可以说是推动台欧盟更进一步合作的重要里程碑。欧盟的市场拥有4.5亿人口以及全球顶尖的技术。本论坛也是欧盟在2020年于台湾举办最大规模的活动。来自欧盟与台湾的讲者将介绍欧盟整体投资环境及法规，还有挑战与机会，可说是精彩可期，让台湾企业前进欧盟，掌握未来黄金商机。The COVID-19 has greatly impacted the way we live and work, as well as the way we do business. Today's forum marks an important milestone for the cooperation between the EU and Taiwan, as it is the largest event held by the EU in Taiwan this year. Speakers from the EU and Taiwan will share their insights in the EU's investment and regulations, as well as the challenges and opportunities, so that Taiwanese companies can gain a better understanding and be encouraged to invest in the EU. 首先，活动一开始，让我们以热烈的掌声欢迎蔡英文总统为我们致辞。Please welcome Her Excellency President Tsai Ing-wen to give us her remarks. 掌声欢迎蔡总统。
Good morning. Representative Jakovsky, Head of the European Economic and Trade Office, and Foreign Affairs Minister Wu, Economic Affairs Minister Wang, and distinguished representatives of EU member states, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again.
Good morning.
It is a great pleasure to be here at Taiwan's very first EU Investment Forum. This is also the first time representatives from Taiwan and 15 EU member states have gathered together to create a platform for bilateral investment. And as Mr. Jakovsky tells me, this is the first important Taiwan-EU event of the year. Today's forum marks a new chapter in our trade and investment partnership based on a solid foundation of collaboration. That includes investments in Taiwan to construct wind farms led by European companies, as well as investments by leading Taiwanese companies in Europe like Giant and AUO. Despite the uncertainty in the current global market, Taiwan has remained proactive in expanding international cooperation. Where others see volatility, we see opportunities for prosperity and building global partnerships. So, as the world experiences economic instability, we introduce our 3 major programs for investing in Taiwan to boost investors' confidence. As of this month, this project has received 650 applications attracted more than $1 trillion, NT dollars, in investment and created more than 92,000 jobs. Our efforts to encourage investment while containing the pandemic have kept our economy on track. While global economic growth is forecast to shrink by 5.1% in 2020, Taiwan has maintained an estimated growth rate of 1.56% for the year, the highest among 4 Asian tigers. Taiwan has created the robust investment environment, not just to serve our domestic needs, but to build stronger international ties. Like the EU, we are encouraging mutually beneficial global partnerships by providing a fair and predictable business environment here. This approach has brought positive results. The UN World Investment Report 2020 estimated that FDI around the world would drop by 40% this year. But Taiwan's FDI from January to July this year was up 10.56% over last year. This shows that international enterprises see Taiwan as a safe and reliable investment environment. Our friends in Europe must agree with this sentiment, as in 2019, Taiwan receives over $1 trillion in investment from the EU. This accounts for 20% of FDI in Taiwan, making the EU our top foreign investor. More than having a great investment partnership, Taiwan and the EU share common values such as freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. These values and our complementary strengths have allowed us to develop strong business relationships. We have seen these relationships blossom in the wind energy sector. And going forward, the EU forward-looking strategy for a Europe fit for digital age and Taiwan's leading ICT industry can be the basis for greater cooperation. From AI and AI ethics to information economy, from data protection and information security to 5G applications. There are so many opportunities for Taiwan and EU enterprises to work together, invest, and innovate. Our governments are supporting these efforts by developing platforms like the Taiwan-EU Dialogue on Digital Economy and the Industrial Policy Dialogue. In addition, Taiwan is now promoting 6 core strategic industries. That policy is designed to leverage our existing strengths so that we can play a key role in the global supply chains of the future. Our core strategic industries include the renewable energy and digital sectors, which match up well with European Commission President von der Leyen's political guidance, giving us a roadmap for future collaboration. But there is still so much more we can do together. For instance, our post-pandemic partnership could include medical supply chains. Taiwanese businesses are well equipped to work with their EU counterparts on high-end vaccine R&D and production, medical equipment, and pandemic prevention supplies like face masks. This is just one of the many areas that would benefit from greater Taiwan and EU collaboration. Taiwan is ready to become one of the EU's top partners in the ICT, biotech, health, and mobility sectors, all industries in which we excel. But to receive those benefits and ensure a more prosperous future, we must capitalize on the current circumstances. By negotiating a bilateral investment agreement, our solid existing foundation can become the cornerstone of our future success. A BIA is the key to this success and will help us all thrive in the digital age. Taiwan and the EU have laid the groundwork for an even stronger partnership. Now it is up to us to take it forward. Today's forum is an excellent platform to prepare business and investment strategy for the digital age and beyond. I hope you will take the advantage of this opportunity and have a successful forum. Thank you.
谢谢总统的鼓励，我们请总统留步。接下来我们将进行大合照，我们麻烦请唱到名的贵宾上台。Now we would like to invite the distinguished guests to come up to the stage for a photo call. 我们今天非常高兴有许多来自欧盟的好朋友们一起来到现场。We would like to invite Mr. Philip Zhegorzewski, Head of Office of European Economic and Trade Office, 欧洲经贸办事处高哲夫处长。接下来，经济部王美花部长 Minister of Economic Affairs 王美花，外交部吴钊燮部长 Minister of Foreign Affairs Joseph Wu， 工业技术研究院刘文雄院长 President of the Industrial Technology Research Institute Edwin 刘。好，我们请长官就位。好，那我们就一起把口罩拿下来。麻烦请我们的长官看前方的相机 ，Please look at the cameras in the front and give us your thumbs up， 帮我们比个赞。也预祝今天的投资欧盟论坛圆满成功。我们也谢谢这么多媒体朋友今天一起好，请各位长官留步。接下来我们要邀请欧盟的朋友一起上台。Now we're going to have the second round of photo call. Please come up to the stage from the right. Chairperson Giuseppe Izzo, European Chamber of Commerce, Taiwan. Mr. Thomas Jorgensen, Head of Trade Team, European Economic and Trade Office. Representative Tanya Burcham, Luxembourg Trade and Investment Office. Representative Frederick Verheiden, Belgian Office, Taipei. Representative Roland Rudefort, Austrian Office, Taipei. Representative Bo Monstedt, Trade Council of Denmark, Taipei. Representative Patrick Rumlar, Czech Economic and Cultural Office. Representative Eduardo Yuba Adalpi, Spanish Chamber of Commerce, Taipei. Representative Thomas Prinz, German Institute, Taipei. Mr. Alain Berdech, Head of Economic Department, French Office in Taipei. Representative David Giglio, Italian Economic Trade and Cultural Promotion Office. Deputy Representative Lily Shiklosh, Hungarian Trade Office, Taipei. Representative Guido Tillman, Netherlands Trade and Investment Office. Representative Bartolds Riz, Polish Office in Taipei. Deputy Representative Michaela Sulakova, Slovak Economic and Cultural Office. Mr. Vlad Monson, Manager Taiwan and Director of Trade Sweden. Mr. Freddie Hoagland, CEO of European Chamber of Commerce Taiwan. So now we have the guests on the stage. Please look at the cameras in the front. And please remove your facial masks. So give us your thumbs up. 来帮我们比个赞。Once again, a round of applause to our distinguished guests from the EU, and thank you so much for your support, and we look forward to further cooperation between the EU and Taiwan. Thank you. 好，那请总统、王部长、吴部长、刘院长请在台上留步。Mr. Zhegorzewski and Mr. Jorgensen, please remain on the stage. Thank you to the rest of the representatives from the EU. Please return from the right side of the stage. Thank you. 刚才我们请了欧盟的好朋友们一起上台，接下来我们要邀请国内的贵宾、工协会代表、论坛主持人还有讲师一同上台合影。接下来让我们邀请台达电子海英俊董事长、电电工会李诗清理事长、经济部国际贸易局姜文若局长、经济部工业局吕正华局长、经济部投资业务处张明斌处长、外交部欧洲司江森司长、 工研院张培仁副院长。接下来为大家介绍我们论坛的讲师 ，and now the speakers: Managing Director Jan Holman, Robert Bosch Taiwan， 台湾生物发展协会李中熙理事长，易光电子公司徐习川协理，台湾爱美科公司董事长 Peter Lemons， 台湾亚博公司李文川董事长 ，Mr. Floyd Ho, CEO of Aprevent Belgium， 资诚会计师事务所曾博生合伙人。Mr. Alex Chan, Senior Project Manager, NFIA Netherlands。电电工会廖志荣副秘书长。接下来欢迎工协会代表，台湾航太工会胡开宏理事长，工业总会陈进才常务理事，台北市电脑工会杜全昌总干事，机械工会蓝敏雄常务理事，工具机同业工会许文宪理事长，自动化与机器人协会司国一理事长。以及工研院产妇中心刘家明执行长。好，我们现在请台上的贵宾就位。Now please take your position。然后我们请贵宾记得把口罩拿下。Please remove your facial masks. Thank you。好，各位贵宾，请看前方的相机。Please look at the cameras in the front and give us your thumbs up。帮我们比个赞。我们很期待看到未来台湾在欧盟的投资能够有更多的发展。We look forward to。好，我们现在呢就以热烈的掌声恭送总统，请其他的贵宾先留在舞台。总统另有要功，我们非常感谢总统今天莅临投资欧洲论坛。Once again, a round of applause to stand up Her Excellency President 蔡英文。Thank you for your presence。非常感谢总统亲临现场，对我们投资欧洲论坛的大力支持，谢谢总统。好。我们也谢谢台上的其他贵宾，请回座。Please return to your seat. Thank you very much. 今天的论坛相当精彩，除了有重量级的讲者为我们担任专题演讲之外，还有很多的论坛分享。我们也期待待会儿有更多的激荡与交流。接下来就让我们邀请欧洲经贸办事处高哲夫处长为我们致辞。Please welcome Mr. Philip Jegorzewski, Head of Office of European Economic and Trade Office, to give us a few remarks. 掌声欢迎高处长。
大家好。
好。
经济部王梅花部长。外交部吴钊燮部长，工研院刘伟雄院长，各位女士、各位先生，大家好。
好。
我今天继续用英文说话好吗？It is really my great pleasure and honor to open the first European Investment Forum in Taiwan. I'm particularly happy to see such a large audience, exceeding by far our expectations. People who registered and who found it interesting to come and take part in the first EU Investment Forum in Taiwan. And I would like to thank every single participant for its interest, for their interest in Europe, and for joining us here today. Thank you very much. The Investment Forum is a joint effort of the European Union office in Taipei, together with the 15 EU member states offices in Taiwan, the Taiwanese government, in particular the Ministry of Economic Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and ITRI. Without the partnership with these stakeholders, we would never be able to achieve what we have achieved today. This forum brings together speakers from Europe, speakers from Taiwan, business people, companies, academics, think tanks. To all of you, big thanks for making this forum a reality. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a famous businessman, Jack Welch, once said, "Change before you have to." That's quite wise. Don't wait before it's too late. Our world is changing rapidly. Technology changes, policy changes, economics, even our climate changes everything moves and changes. Sometimes we welcome those changes and sometimes we initiate them, but sometimes we struggle. However, we feel about changes, one thing remains always the same. Every change offers new opportunities. And this is very wise sentence coming from the Chinese philosophy, Chinese wisdom, that in every change there is an opportunity. It's so true. And every opportunity gives us a chance to develop our businesses for good. The European Union and Taiwan have unique possibilities to work together and embrace the new opportunities in this changing world. We both speak a common language of human rights, democracy, rule of law. This is very important. We both share the same values of an open, transparent and fair international trading system. We both aspire to create a sustainable, green and digital society. So we have so much in common. It's only natural for us to work even closer. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has taught us a lesson how vulnerable we all are. The pandemic has also magnified problems that existed even before the outbreak, whether that concerns global power competition, international supply chain or trade disruptions. Old answers and business models will not any longer work in the future. We better change before we have to. Europe offers unique opportunities for Taiwanese companies. We have created a single market of 450 million consumers, where people, goods, services and capital can work and travel freely. There are no borders in Europe anymore. Europe has highly innovative and high-class industries, a rich and vibrant culture, and it is closely connected to the world. By investing in Europe, you become part of our European way of life. As we say it in French, joie de vivre. This becomes your world, this becomes your life, joie de vivre. You're more than welcome to join us. Let me thank you again for coming today, and I wish you a very successful EU Investment Forum. But before I leave the stage, 台湾有一句话说，爱呀嫁人呀。让我们一起前进欧盟，链接世界。Go Europe! Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zhergosevsky. 不止国语很厉害，台语买通很厉害。好，接下来让我们欢迎经济部王美花部长为我们致辞。Please welcome Minister of Economic Affairs 王美花 to give us her remarks.
我决定用中文哈，赶快简单致辞一下哈。欧洲经贸办事处高哲夫处长，还有我们外交部吴部长，还有来自15个欧盟的会员代表，还有各位贵宾、各位女士，大家好。那我补充几点哦。那第一个这个高哲夫处长跟我说，其实今天本来报名的有1000多人，但是因为防疫的关系，所以做了非常多的限制。所以到现场来的就不是1000多人，但是它代表着对这个去欧盟这个论坛非常的有兴趣要来了解。那第二个呢，高处长要准备这个论坛，大概从快1年前就跟我提这个想法。那他提这个想法有2个原因。第一个原因就是欧盟的企业跟台湾的企业其实有很高的互补性。可是呢，欧盟来台湾投资呢，已经是台湾的外资第1名了。但是台湾去欧盟投资的为什么相对这么少那第2个原因就是台湾的制造业，特别是我们各行各业那特别现在。因为半导体做得非常好，所以半导体产业、ICT 产业甚至机械制造业等等呢， 都非常适合到欧洲去投资。那所以他觉得这是欧盟应该可以吸引很多台湾的企业去投资。那增加的第3个原因其实是最近的发展，也就是在这个整个全球经济变动这么大之下，那有很大的怎么寻找合作伙伴，是一个变成要策略性跟战略性的想法，特别是在疫情之后。所以刚才总统也提到这个高处长也提到，信任的伙伴关系变成是现在非常重要的第3个因素。那所以欧盟寻找跟台湾的合作，就是一个非常好的机会。所以不管是欧盟来台湾投资，或者是今天的论坛把欧盟介绍给台湾的企业界，变成是一个非常第一个又很实际，第2个又有战略性的合作关系。所以高处长对办理这个第1次的这个欧洲论坛呢，有很高的期待。那在会场的外面呢，我们15个这个会员，欧盟的会员呢，也都有这个booths，有这个位置摊位。各位如果要进一步了解更深的这个资讯的话，可以去跟他们做接洽。那我作为经济部，我们其实也非常非常乐意跟欧盟在投资经贸方面有更深入的合作，因为相对的欧盟也是我们信任的合作伙伴。那所以这是一个新的一个合作的关系。那从过往我们的企业到欧盟去投资，或者欧盟来台湾投资，都是很成功，都赚钱了哈，董事长都探几了哈。那所以呢，怎么样利用各自的优势，那但是又要怎么克服投到陌生的环境去投资的一些障碍，或者是资讯的不足呢？就是我们这样的一个投资论坛想要达到的目的。那所以呢，我们也觉得这是一个很好的机会。那当然也有很多台湾的企业也常常会跟我提到欧盟投资，他们最常碰到的什么样的问题？比如说他们就常常碰到签证时程都很久，等等的，诸如此类的问题。那我觉得借由这样的一个论坛呢，就可以从大的到很细的执行面的问题呢，可以进一步了解。那让有意到欧盟投资的企业家们呢，可以解决各式各样的问题，让它更便利、更方便。那我们也祝福这一次的论坛能够顺利成功，开启新的一页，然后让台欧盟可以有更高的合作关系。谢谢大家，谢谢。
谢谢部长的勉励，我们请部长回座。接下来，让我们欢迎外交部吴钊燮部长为我们致辞。Please welcome Minister of Foreign Affairs Joseph Wu to give us his remarks. 掌声欢迎。
Honorable EU Representative Philip Szczegoszewski, Honorable representatives from the EU member states, Madam Minister Wang just left for LY, and I'll be going to LY as well. And I think it's more fun here than going to be tortured in LY. And also the business leaders from Taiwan, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. 大家早。As we all know, many nations around the world are currently experiencing a second or even third wave of COVID-19. Taiwan has done rather well in containing the pandemic, but only the first half of the battle has been won. But we will still stay vigilant to prepare for the second half. One critical step to prevent the coming wave of pandemic while paving the way for economic recovery is to strengthen the economic ties with the like-minded partners. The EU Investment Forum is an excellent platform for top Taiwanese business leaders and manufacturers to explore the new opportunities that will abound in Europe after the pandemic subsides. These applies especially to the restructuring of global supply chains for critical materials and strategic industries. Taiwan and the EU are like-minded partners and face the same post-pandemic challenges. In President Tsai's inaugural speech, she defined 6 core strategic industries. These dovetail nicely with the EU Recovery Fund's emphasis on a green, digital, and resilient recovery. There is unlimited potential for Taiwan-EU cooperation in related areas, including 5G infrastructure and ICT industries, medical and biotechnology industries, and green economy-related industries. I strongly encourage Taiwanese business to act early and explore new business opportunities for the post-pandemic era. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go Europe. Thank you.
Go Europe, thank you. 谢谢部长，请回座。各位贵宾，接下来是专题演讲。说到投资欧盟，很多台湾企业首先必须要考虑的就是整体投资的大环境以及法规等面向。Next, we will move on to the keynote speeches. When it comes to investing in the EU, many Taiwanese companies are concerned about the overall environment and regulations. 首先，我们很荣幸邀请到欧洲议会国际贸易委员会副主席 Juliu Winkler 议员。由于现在的时间是欧洲的清晨，所以副主席将会透过影片来与我们分享为何要投资欧盟。The first one is a pre-recorded video by Mr. Juliu Winkler, MEP and Vice Chair of the Committee on International Trade, European Parliament. His topic is Why Invest in the EU? Please enjoy.
Your Excellencies, distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to participate at this first ever EU Investment Forum in Taiwan. I would have much preferred to be there with you in person. However, given the public health circumstances we find ourselves in, I have to rely on technology in conveying my message to you today. I am still recalling with great pleasure my visit to Taipei in the autumn of 2016, together with the members of the International Trade Committee of the European Parliament. On that occasion, we had very good meetings organized at the highest level, including with Her Excellency President Tsai Ing-wen. I am glad to be once again able to participate in a forum that brings value and promotes the cooperation between the European Union and Taiwan. My presentation today will be structured on 3 main points. Firstly, I will reflect on the overall EU-Taiwan relationship. Secondly, I will make the case for the EU as an investment destination. Thirdly, I will bring to your attention the future of the bilateral relationship, particularly in trade and investment, in a post-COVID context. In the beginning, however, I will share some thoughts on the European Union. The EU is arguably one of the most thriving political projects that finds its roots in a deep desire for a peaceful future. The post-war economic integration of the European Union member states is one of the greatest success stories of the past 70 years. No other war-torn region with deep historic divides has succeeded to become reconciled with its past, creating a political entity that grew to cover much of the continent in half a century. The peaceful integration brought along a considerable degree of prosperity that is clearly visible in economic terms. The European Union is the world's main provider and a top global destination of foreign investment. FDI stock held by third country investors in the European Union amounted to 7.2 billion euros at the end of 2018, the equivalent of around 30% of the total global stock of FDI. For the European Union, FDI became a tool for promoting economic and social growth and sustainable development. By contributing to economic growth, job creation, and integration in global value chains, foreign investment benefits host countries as well as home countries. Coming to my first main point, I would like to emphasize the positive agenda of the EU-Taiwan cooperation and our diversified dialogue. We are like-minded partners and WTO members with a structured dialogue and consultations on trade, on industrial policy, and on digital economy. We have a wide series of sectorial working groups, including one on the investment, where we share our positions on investment protection, screening, and new developments in our regulatory frameworks. I highlight here the significance of the European Business and Regulatory Cooperation Programme, which continues its local engagement, facilitating regulatory coherence and business collaboration with Taiwan. I salute the 15 member state offices in Taipei, and I congratulate the EU Economic and Trade Office, as well as the very active European Chamber for Commerce, for their strong representation of European interest in Taiwan. I actually recommend to all the distinguished representatives of the local businesses community to get in touch with the EU office and the ECCT should they want to know more about opportunities in the European Union. Do not leave today's forum without a business card or contact information. Surely, the European Union has strong commercial interest in Taiwan, particularly given its strength on the digital ICT fields. Being home to one of the most sophisticated IT industries and an important player in semiconductor industry, European businesses work together with Taiwanese hidden champions to deliver top-tier, high-tech products and components. Particularly today, in the more challenging times of COVID, we see a vital need for cooperation on innovation, research and development, and technological advances. All this interaction is built on investments. This brings me to the second point of my keynote. Why invest in the European Union? For starters, on a global scale, the European Union is one of the most open places to invest. It brings a solid and transparent set of regulatory frameworks that provide much-needed legal certainty, particularly in today's ever-changing world. EU legislation secures a level playing field so that investors are not discriminated against, facilitating a predictable and transparent business environment. Lately, serious steps have been made towards harmonization and consistency at EU level. One must not forget the single market, with the 4 freedoms of movement of labor, capital, goods and services, that, together with the power of the single currency, makes for an extremely attractive business proposition. The European Union is today a massive collective market created out of 27 different entities. The European Union is not only one of the world's largest but also wealthiest markets. Wealth, as you know, has much importance, possibly even more than size. Wealth is associated in the European Union with rising per capita incomes and purchasing power, highly skilled and productive labor force, advanced innovation, and an excellent research and development infrastructure. Some of the key sectors that are growing and hence are worth considering for investment are defense and aerospace, the automotive industry, biotechnology, engineering, logistics, information and communication technology, Internet of Things, and many, many more. These are all areas where Taiwanese investment can and should make a difference. The EU brings together competitive economies that are present in all global rankings. together with a highly specialized workforce. It is a powerhouse of innovation and research and development. Most of the EU member states are ranking high in the easy-to-do business indexes. Of significance here is also the diversity in the EU member states when it comes to the factors for production, yet with a high degree of interconnectedness. This acts as a springboard to different countries, be it in the Western Europe, in Central and Eastern Europe, in the South, or in Scandinavia. One can benefit from lower costs because of more efficient cross-border supply chains. There are many instances of firms seeking lower cost, high-skilled labor, setting up operations in Central and Eastern Europe while still maintaining their geographical proximity to industrial production facilities in Western Europe. Linked here is also the access to the European neighborhood, which is increasingly integrated through association agreements and deep and comprehensive free trade agreements that make business more attractive. Finally, a key element for the discussion is the EU's value-driven policy and economic engagement. One finds much promotion in Europe for those investments that support sustainable development, respect for human rights, and high labor and environmental standards. It is also valid for the European Union's international commitments. The EU encourages corporate social responsibility and responsible business practices. Given Taiwan's track record in these areas, I can only welcome more engagement with the EU, seeing our like-mindedness and our convictions in a value-based conduct. These fundamentals are vital in an ever-changing and dynamic world, in an international context struck by volatility and uncertainty. This brings me to my third and last point, the future trade and investment relationship in a post-COVID context. I will present the Brussels perspectives, as the European post-COVID recovery strategy comes with new opportunities. These are crucial weeks and months for the European Union. In the upcoming period, we will adopt the EU budget for the next 7 years, the so-called multi-annual financial framework for 2021 up to 2027. It is established at almost 1.1 trillion euros. On the backdrop of the COVID pandemic, the European Union also established a next-generation EU recovery plan of 750 billion euros. Considering these two together, we are talking about a massive 1.8 trillion euro package. One could argue that the next decade of the European Union is written now through these crucial decisions. We must also add the value of national stimulus programs, and I give you just two examples, Germany and France, both at 100 billion euros and above. This unprecedented amount of financing in the EU and its member states brings unprecedented business opportunities. What we are witnessing is not only the beginning of a solid economic recovery, but also of a process of deep structural transformation. This process focuses on two horizontal priorities. First, there is the European Green Deal, encompassing ambitious plans for the green economy and sustainable development. Secondly, we have the digital agenda, which focuses on developments in ICT, digital commerce, and automation. These two flagship EU agendas can bring great prospects for Taiwanese investment. I would say that indeed this is the moment when the European Union truly steps into the 21st century. Taiwan can be a partner in this giant enterprise. I must recall that we are crossing challenging waters. COVID-19 has brought the EU into a serious moment of self-reflection. Some of the repercussions could also be seen in the EU trade policy. The European Union is often characterized as one of the most open commercial actors and indeed a champion of global trade. While this is often considered as an asset, COVID has highlighted that this can also be an important vulnerability. This is especially relevant in the context of global supply chains and various dependencies that the European Union has identified as a strategic weakness. The European Commission is currently conducting a review of the EU trade policy, which will be concluded by the end of this year. What I can confirm already now is that our trade policy will follow the new concept of open strategic autonomy and will include significant efforts directed at the diversification of supply chains, strategic stockpiling, and the reindustrialization of Europe. The element of continuity is that any legislative process where the European Parliament is involved will guarantee transparency, proportionality, and accountability. Any new legislation will be based on public consultations and will be WTO compatible. To give an example linked to our discussion on FDI, consider the new investment screening mechanism that will enter into application next month. This tool is focused on FDI that can carry security or public safety implications. The whole process of screening will be transparent and proportional. Another common question I often receive is linked to the impact of Brexit on the European Union's business attractiveness. As I speak today, there is continued uncertainty as to the post-divorce relationship. I confess I am a true European. I would have preferred to still have the UK as a member of the European Union. However, this was not my decision, nor that of the European Parliament. I have little update to share today about the future EU-UK trade and investment relationship, seeing that negotiations are progressing with extreme difficulty. However, what I can tell you is that the EU27 will remain a major geo-economic player on the global trade and investment front, retaining all the major characteristics that make a global investment destination. Reaching at the end of my speech, as INTA Vice Chair in the European Parliament, I would like to convey the message that the European Union-Taiwan structured cooperation is indeed important for our committee members. As you can recall, the repeated resolutions of the European Parliament, the body I represent is in favor of advancing our structured cooperation in many domains, including investment and trade. Certainly, we will continue promoting the economic and technological cooperation in all relevant areas for the new economic model, be it green economy, digitalization, biotechnology or ICT, IoT and automation. There are many areas that offer important opportunities where we can cooperate, building genuine 21st century economies. I therefore much appreciate the EU-Taiwan relationship and its opportunities for the future. I see a great perspective for us, like-minded partners, both at the bilateral level but also on the multilateral front on international organizations. In conclusion, I would like to leave you with one clear message, or rather an invitation. Come and invest in the European Union. I assure you that the European Parliament will play its role in promoting all the necessary regulatory measures to back this invitation with concrete elements. We have strong institutions, clear regulatory frameworks that provide legal certainty and investment security in a diversified pool of member states. Our ambitions for growth, R&D and innovation in green technologies and digitalization have never been any higher. In this context, we are eager to welcome you to Europe. Thank you, and please accept my best wishes for the proceedings of the Investment Forum.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Winkler, for your insights, and I'm sure his convincing remarks is really something that can encourage the Taiwanese companies to invest in the EU. 非常感谢议员的分享。刚才谈到了为什么要投资欧盟，其实呢，在台湾已经有许多大企业身先士卒，在欧盟的市场站稳脚步，而欧盟市场也已经成为这些台湾企业全球布局当中极为重要的战略市场。As we were talking about why investing in the EU, actually many Taiwanese companies have taken the lead and made large investments in the EU, which is an important strategic market for their global deployment. 接下来就让我们邀请到台达电海英俊董事长亲临现场现身说法，与我们分享台湾企业在欧洲投资的经验。Our next speaker is Mr. Yancy Hai, Chairman of Delta Electronics Inc., and he will share his company's experience of investing in the EU. 各位贵宾，热烈的掌声欢迎海董事长。
Good morning. Guten Morgen. Bonjour. Buenos dias. Buongiorno. That's all I know. Philip, sorry, no polish. First of all, it's really my honor to be invited by Philip to participate in the first EU investment forum. I understand this kind of event never happened before. So I think it's a good start because last night we have a very nice dinner together with all the foreign dignitaries, and somebody asked me, why Taiwanese, you don't invest as much as you did in the States, United States. So I said, well, there's many reasons. I think one of the most critical one, I think, is the lack of communication. So I think this investment forum, I think it's a good start. But I say it's only the beginning, because you are not going to invest hundreds of $millions in Europe just by attending one seminar. So I will encourage you, to not only to tour the booth outside, but also have close contact with their representatives here in Taiwan. And of course, you have to go there, because each and every country, they say, okay, we're European, but Europeans can be very different. It's a long story. I don't have time to tell you right now. So today, I'm in the next 20 minutes, I'll tell you a little bit about who Delta is and what Delta we have done in Europe in the past almost 30 some years. That's the right. Can't. Okay, first, Delta. Delta was founded in 1971. So next year, Delta will be celebrating our 50th anniversary. And now we are the world's largest switching power supply and also DC fan manufacturer. But at the same time, we're also diversifying into some other areas, such as electrical vehicle, such as renewable energy, such as some of the telecom switching equipment. And the company was founded by the visionary founder, Mr. Bruce Chen. He's retired, but he still goes to the office every day. And the revenue last year was 9 billion. And this year, despite the COVID-19 impact, I think of course, we are in September right now. But I can say probably this year we're going to have a single-digit growth. First, our mission. I think it's very important for Delta. In Taiwan, everybody knows Delta's mission statement is 环保节能爱地球, but the English version, I think it's even more precise to describe what we want to do. Our mission is to provide innovative, clean, and energy-efficient solutions for a better tomorrow. And the solar farm, now you are seeing that the solar farm we help build in Denmark. It's more than 75 megawatts PV. And our business, basically, we divide into 3 divisions. One is power electronics, another is automation, and another is infrastructure. And under power electronics, of course, we have power, and also we have some other components like passive components, inductors, resistors, and also fans, which is mentioned. And also there's a new business group, is the automotive electronics, because now all the car companies, you have new EV companies, but also all the traditional car companies, they are getting to EVs as well. And for automation, for us, mainly is the industrial automation and then building automation. For building automation, that's a new business for us. That's why we have acquired a few companies, including the one in Austria, in Vienna, that's Loitech. And also the third division is the infrastructure. That's mainly the ICT infrastructure, like grid, microgrid, and also the charging stations and the others. So the biggest business there is the power supply for the 4G and the 5G base stations. That's why also a few years ago we have acquired a Norwegian power company called Eltec. And the Delta, in this morning, that's, I think Philip says we need to change. And so Delta in the past was a component company. Now we are getting to a more system-oriented and also solution-oriented business. So for now, we have the following major solution proposals to the market. One is the EV charging. Everybody knows if we want to have EVs getting popular, then you need to have the sufficient charging stations. Otherwise, people they are not drive their car out. And of course, the industrial automation, because right now the manufacturing is not only need to be automated, but also need to be more intelligent. That's why they call the smart manufacturing. So other than automation, now we have used the data analysis to improve our productivity and also their quality. And the third one is the building automation. The reason we got into building automation is building, a lot of people don't know, is one of the most area they consume a lot of energy. In general, a building they consume about maybe 35 to 40% of the energy. And in today's building, I would say most of the buildings they are not efficient. Actually, there's a lot of energies can be saved. So there's a lot of CO2s can be saved as well. And the telecom, now everybody is talking about 5G, so we are getting to the 5G base station infrastructure. And then the data center, that's a big area, especially after COVID-19. everybody's staying at home, so people use the Zoom meeting. They have distance studying, and also people watch a lot of movies, like Netflix, or the other 追剧, the Korean movies and so on and so forth. So the data traffic has increased quite a bit. Now the data center consume about 2% of the world electricity generated. And a few years later, this 2% will become 15%. So have to have a very efficient data center. It's important. Otherwise, we don't have enough electricity. Then forget about 5G or 6G. Of course, renewable. Everybody is talking about renewable, especially here in Taiwan. Now we try to have the renewable to account for 20% of all the electricity we're using in the near future. And the last one is the display and the monitoring. Okay, for us, because our mission is to provide energy efficient solutions to have a better tomorrow. So all our products now they have an efficient standard. Okay, if it's below a certain standard, we just don't make it. So in the past, the power supplies efficiencies was like 50 to 60%. And then right now, all our power supplies, they are all over 90%. And some of the power supplies now is close to 99%. So as a result of all engineers' effort, we have saved 31 billion kilowatt hours. In Chinese, that's 310亿度电. So if you translate that into carbon emission, it's more than 16 million tons of carbon. And right now, carbon is free. But now a lot of countries and also companies, they have put a price on carbon. So if you don't do the energy saving and the carbon reduction right now, later on, your cost structure is going to be very expensive. And here we can talk about a little bit about our past in our globalization process. We just mentioned that Delta was established in 1971, and then in 1987 we have established the first office in Europe. And then in 2003, we acquired ESCOM Energy System. That's the headquarters was in Switzerland, Bern, but they have major operations in Germany and Slovakia. And then in 2015, we acquired LTEC. That's a major telecom power company. Okay. Before the merger, okay, Delta was number 2, and LTEC was number 3 in telecom business. And after the merger, Delta/LTEC became number 1 in telecom power supply. And also, I just mentioned, because we want to get into the building automation, so we have acquired the Loitec in Austria for building automation. And then the latest development is that we are building a new R&D center in Helmond, that's near Eindhoven in Netherlands. So that's the footprint, global footprint. So you can see in Europe, we have many offices. Say in EMEA, EMEA including Middle East, and Africa. But if you can see, in Africa, actually we have very few offices, mainly in Europe. So in Europe, we have now 45 sales offices. We have 3 factories and then 14 R&D centers. That's what I just mentioned. And then there's a new, newly renovated headquarters in Holland near the Schiphol airport. And the reason I want to show this picture is that after the renovation, this building has been classified as A-class building. The energy level is A-class. So we have saved 45% energy. And that's a new R&D center in Helmont. Is going to be completed next year. So for Delta, Europe is not only a market, a manufacturing base, but also R&D. Later on I can show you, not this one. Okay. So that's some of the solution cases. In 2018 FIFA, the World Cup in Russia, we provide the UPS system to ensure that everything goes smoothly, no interruption of any power. And that's another one. It's a new data center we built in ByteNet. So we provide UPS, also a data center, integrated management solutions. So here we can see the energy efficiency in this data center is 96.5%. So if you, because the data center they are running 24 hours a day, if you consume 1 more % of electricity, your electricity bill will be millions more a year. And also you produce a lot of CO2s. That's for our lighting system in Manchester Airport. It's with this lighting again with the energy saving up to 89% because they use the LED lightings and also with the controlling panel. So why investing in Europe? Very easy, because Europe, it's here, it's a big market and there's a lot of talents, and the whole region is still growing. So it's like a no-brainer. But how to do that? How to get there? And our experience is that by making acquisitions, probably is a faster way than building up your own infrastructure organically. So here you can see, if we look at the infrastructure, okay, in year 2000, we have only 3 sales offices, and then by 2010, we have 22 offices, and then by 2020, now we have 45 offices. So just think of it, if you are going there and build up an office all by yourself, you need to rent a space or construction, something, and then you have to recruit people, you establish the relationship with the local suppliers and so on and so forth. So, in our experience, going through the M&A approach is much faster. So as a result, also we have 3 factories right now, and especially R&D centers. Now we have 14 R&D centers. So if you look at the people, in the year 2000, we have only 20 people there. Basically, it's a very small sales office. By 2010, we have 1,600, and then now we have 2,700. That I think that's the number. Yeah. Okay, and I just mentioned that other than building up our own R&D centers, in the different places, including Holland, including Germany, and the EU, other EU countries. Also, now we are formally forming a partnership with the local technology universities. This one is KIT, Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, that's in Germany. It's for advanced motors for the electrical vehicle. And also, now the general manager for EMEA, his name is Dalip Sharma. Actually, he's Indian. The reason we chose him as the general manager because he was our Indian general manager. The Indian operation came from the ESCOM acquisition in 2003. So if we do not do the acquisition, then we don't have an Indian office. But right now, the Indian office, when we bought the ESCOM in 2003, India office only have $6 million of sales. And as of 2018, he transferred to Europe. India has 240 million sales revenue already. And also the headcount grew from 20 to 700. So for our business in Europe, in year 2000 is 200 million, and this year it's going to be 750. I think we are going to still keep on growing, as the time goes. The reason we are so optimistic, is because if you look at this pie chart, the EMEA, their GDP accounts for like 30%, 31% of the world GDP. But Delta's revenue from EMEA is only 8%. That's 700 million. So I think we still have a lot of room for growth. And then lastly, talking about the opportunities and the challenges. We talked about opportunities earlier. It's a very sizable market, and also the European countries, they value the high quality service and the product. So they're willing to pay. It's a value-driven countries. But again, the challenges are, EU, and especially EMEA is a big area. They have more than 100 countries. Europe alone, I think they have 40, 50 different countries. So it's very complicated, and then you need to have a different management team in each and every different country. And of course, the cost of doing business is a little bit high, and the labor law. I think earlier somebody mentioned the labor law, but I have a different view, because we from Taiwan, we use the Taiwanese mentality. That's working hard. Right? So when we send out engineers to Germany after the acquisition of ESCOM, and our engineers say, hey, the German people, they're very lazy. I said, why? They said they left work and go home at 5 o'clock. We work until 10 o'clock. And I asked him, so did he finish his job? He said, yeah, he did. I said, so why he has to stay? And then you look at their PC board layout. It's so clean. It's like almost like an art. And for hours, and I'm ashamed, embarrassed to say that. Our PC board is like wishy-washy. It's you have capacitor going this way, resistors going this way. So I think in terms of workmanship, the European, I think a lot of countries, they have a very good so-called meisters, the masters of, and here we call Sifu. Right? So that concludes my presentation. And I wish you all have a very healthy and happy life.
谢谢海董事长精彩的分享。那因为时间有限，所以如果场内的朋友有任何问题的话，我们可以留待待会儿的问题讨论的时候，我们再进行提问。那接下来是我们的茶叙时间，场外有欧盟会员国15个摊位，还有包括了经济部投资业务处，还有外贸协会等摊位，欢迎大家可以到摊位上交流，索取布局欧洲的第一手资讯。也请各位于11点整准时回来。So this concludes our first session. Now we're going to take a break, and please come back at 11. Thank you. 回来投资欧盟论坛。刚才我们听了2场精彩的专题演讲，相信大家都非常期待有进一步的想法激荡跟问题讨论。在这个场次，我们将会以现场还有视讯的方式连线来进行提问，让欧盟跟台湾的讲者能够同步。那如果还有多的时间，我们也会开放给现场的朋友提问。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the EU Investment Forum 2020. In this panel discussion, the panelists will join us both from this venue and from online. And if time permits, we will also open the floor for questions and comments. 首先为各位介绍今天这个场次的主持人。First of all, our moderator, 工研院张培仁副院长 Dr. P.C. Zhang, Executive Vice President of ITRI. 接下来为大家介绍与谈人 and now the panelists. 首先为大家介绍 Ms. Alessandra Fertini, partner of Fertini Vergano Law Firm, Fertini Vergano 法律事务所合伙人，他会透过线上的方式来加入我们。Hello. 那第二位为大家介绍 Mr. Nitan Pathak, Head of Unit Institutional Relationship APAC MENA, European Investment Fund, 欧洲投资基金亚太与中东北非机关关系负责人 Nitan Pathak。也是一样用线上的方式加入我们。那第3位为大家介绍的是我们在现场的贵宾，资诚联合会计师事务所曾博生合伙人 Mr. Paulson 曾 ，Partner of Global Structured Services PwC。那第4位是刚才替我们进行非常精彩的专题演讲分享，台达电海英俊董事长 Mr. Yancy Hai, Chairman of Delta Electronics Inc. 我们现在就把时间交给主持人张副院长 Dr. Chang, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the first session in the morning. And actually, in the previous 2 keynote speeches, one talk about the why to invest in Europe. And second, that experience shared by Yanxi, he talked about his experience, Delta experience in investing in Europe, the benefits and the challenges, opportunities. And this session, we mainly focus on the how we, the Taiwanese enterprise, may invest in Europe. So actually, we are very happy to invite 4 panelists. Alessandra Fertini will talk about the legal framework to invest in Europe. And second speaker, Nathan, will talk about the EIF, that the European Investor Fund, to help to especially start and the small medium enterprise to support them to invest in to set up companies in Europe. And third one is about the taxation, the taxation system in Europe that will be delivered by Paulson, okay? And last one, come back to Yancy again, because Yancy already delivered a keynote speech. We let him take a 15 minutes break, okay? And after that, because he has so many happy experiences in Europe, okay? So after the presentation, that we could bring up questions to ask all our panelists, okay? So our first presentation was delivered by Ms. Fertini. Okay, so could we get the screen?
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to present you with the legal perspective of the EU investment framework. As you can see from the summary, I will start with a broader picture, the single market and the EU investment policies in relation to member states and to third countries. We'll touch upon the 2 main types of investment, and then finally highlight the procedural steps under the merger control regulation of mergers and acquisitions in the EU. Now, starting with the broader picture, the inevitable starting point is the single market. Why is the EU attractive, also from a legal point of view, for investment is mainly because of the single market. Well, the single market refers to the EU as one territory without any internal borders or other regulatory obstacles to the free movements of goods and services. And within the single market, one building block is definitely the EU customs union, which is a unique example of an area where a number of countries apply a uniform set of rules to the import, export, and transit of goods, and implement a common set of rules, which is the customs, the EU customs code. What I mean with a single set of rules is that there are no custom duties at the borders between the EU countries. National custom services in all EU member states operate as one in the day-to-day operations of the customs union. Then the next building block of the single market are the 4 freedoms. They are the cornerstone of the single market. They say that goods, services, capital, and persons can move freely without restrictions within the EU. Now, when it comes to goods, that means that business in the EU benefits from a home market of over 450 million consumers for the products. When it comes to services, the freedom of establishment and the freedom to provide services guarantee mobilities of businesses and professionals within the EU. There are no restrictions on capital movements and payments across borders. And finally, freedom of movement and residence for persons in the EU basically means that EU nationals can move and freely reside within the EU. Now, but that's not all, because the strong integration between member states at both economic and legal level ensures stability and predictability of taxation, which is certainly relevant from an investor's perspective, and that also entails that within the EU, the single market and its rule book ensure a transparent business environment and a level playing field for all investors, not to mention the availability of skilled labor and technological skills. Now, when it comes to the EU investment policies and member states, now since 2009, with the Lisbon reform, it is the EU that handles foreign direct investment policies on behalf of EU member states. With the Regulation 1219 of 2012, the EU has established a transitional arrangement for bilateral investment agreements that were in place between member states and third countries to make sure they are consistent with the EU law and the EU investment policy. Well, this regulation sets out the conditions that the existing something like 1,400 bilateral investment agreements in force have to comply with, and the conditions that apply to for EU members to modify existing agreements and negotiate or conclude new ones. Those conditions basically boil down to the agreement being not in conflict with the EU law, the agreement being consistent with EU principles and objectives for external action, the Commission did not submit or decided to submit recommendation to open negotiation with that specific non-EU country, and that the agreement does not create a serious obstacle to the EU negotiating or concluding a bilateral investment with non-EU countries. Now, the EU investment policy promotes investment which is sustainable. That means promotes investment in a manner which is mindful of high environmental and labor standards, human rights, responsible business conduct, and sustainable development principles. At the same time, as foreign investment contribute to economic growth and also job creation at national level, most member states seek to improve conditions to attract investors through domestic policies and international agreements. So there are specific national policies in place, and you will have a chance to hear about those later on during this forum. The next slide, in relation to the investment policies in third country, well, the EU is negotiating or implementing several trade and investment agreements with more than 70 non-EU countries. The EU agreed in November 15 on a reformed investment dispute settlement approach to stay up to date with the highest standards of legitimacy and transparency. The European Commission is also leading efforts with trade partners to set up a multilateral investment court to rule on investment disputes. And the EU is actively participating or engaging in international institutional organizations where the rules on international investment are discussed. And I refer to the Investment Committee of the OECD, the World Investment Forum of UNCTAD, or the Committee on Trade-Related Investment Measures, WTO, and so on and so forth. Now, having said that, in relation to the broader picture, when we move to the type of investment, there are two main types of foreign investment, direct investments and indirect investment. Well, direct investment, the first one is the Greenfield project. So I have assisted various companies that wanted to set up an EU-based business, with the first inevitable choice being the selection of the member states. So there are a number of considerations that come into the picture. So not only the size of the market for the product service concern, but also the sector-specific regulatory environment and the physical or also cultural distance from the starting country. Another kind of direct investment is the acquisition or controlling shares in a company. Those that you see there are examples of concentration that have been approved by the Commission with or without commitments. The second type of investment is the indirect or portfolio investment in the form of acquisitions of minority stakes of a company or acquisition of shares or the debt to equity conversion. And the case I refer to in these slides is that of Agrokor, a Croatian company who went into insolvency and then was subject to administration in 2017. And in that case, two Russian state-owned banks that were creditors became, following a settlement with creditors, main shareholders in that company. So that's another way to get an investment into the EU. And then finally, from a more legal or procedural aspect, I would like to quickly highlight the merger control regulation in the EU. Well, in the EU, mergers have to be previously notified regardless of where the headquarters or registered office or the activity or production is located, if the proposed concentration has effect on the internal market. It has to be notified, such a proposed concentration, to the competent authority. They can be the European Commission or a national competition authority, and that depends on whether the proposed concentration has an EU or a national dimension. Now, if you move to the next slide, you will see that there are specific and complicated enough rules to decide whether a proposed concentration has a national or a EU dimension, but I don't want to go through it now. But there are also mechanisms in place whereby the Commission can refer a case to the National Competition Authority and the other way around to ensure that it is the best placed competition authority that assesses any given transaction. Now, when we come to the procedure, and I refer to the procedure before the European Commission, following the notification, there is normally phase one, there is 25 working days that can be extended by 10 additional working days in certain cases. And normally over 90% of the cases are resolved in phase one, generally without commitments. But if the case raises competition concerns, then we have a phase two that can last up to 90 days, or further time if commitments are offered or there is a stop-the-clock procedures. And whenever possible, the Commission tries to align the timing of its investigations with other competition authorities across the world. And how does the procedure end? If the Commission has serious competition concerns, it sends a statement of objection to the notifying party, which has the right to respond, and to request an oral hearing. And then finally, there are three main outcomes of the procedure: unconditional clearance, clearance subject to remedies, and prohibitions. Now, all decisions and also procedural conduct of the commissions are, of course, subject to appeal before the European Court of Justice of the EU. This is all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Hello. Thank you for attending. Actually, she just gave a very brief picture of the single market, EU. I just want to give you a rough figure that in terms of number of customer or population, EU is around 20 times compared to that of Taiwan. That 450 million people compared to 23 million people is about 20 times. But if we compare GDP, is about 30 times, okay? 30 times, EU is about, so if we talk about purchasing power, that's about 30 times compared to Taiwan, just to give you a rough figure, okay? That's, in short, that's much bigger than Taiwan, okay? Okay, so next one I will be presented to you by, is it Nathan online? Okay, please. Oh, great. That's correct. Yeah. Can you hear me?
So Nitin, can you hear us? Hello, Nitin?
Nathan, you could proceed now. Yeah, thank you.
So Nitin, give us a minute. We need to play your sound. So we're having some technical issues here. So could you please keep speaking so that we can make sure that we can hear you? Please say something. We can't hear you. So please give us a minute or... Okay. So Nitin, can you hear us now?
So we have some technical problems. So what's the problem? Okay. Okay. So do you mean the bandwidth? Yeah. Okay. So we have some difficulty, technical problem. That's a bandwidth. So right now we cannot hear Nitin's voice. How about let's proceed from Paulson? Okay. Sure.
Hi everyone. So my name is Paulson. I'm a tax partner based in Taipei, but I had some working experiences in Europe. So I'm mainly responsible for helping clients, including Delta as well, to invest in different markets. So one of them is EU, obviously. So it's very my pleasure to just give you some of the highlights, or I think the rather important aspects if you want to do business in EU and how you should pay attention to tax areas. So if I may, sorry, I don't have a clicker, so if you can, somebody can help me to roll down. Thank you so much. So here, I think if we look at Taiwanese business going to EU, obviously we have 15 booths. So today, but mainly I think people looking at market like in Germany, I think that's the biggest investment country that Taiwanese business focus. And also, I think Netherlands is also another hub. Thank you very much. And then UK, obviously, but it's not officially EU anymore, I guess. Then obviously Italy and Czech Republic. Now Czech Republic also becomes more and more relevant and important because we do have a lot of Taiwanese business have manufacturing footprint there. So here is a sort of a quick, very high-level comparison of the tax information among these countries. So I think a lot of Taiwanese business, the first question they ask me if they want to go to EU, they would say, hey, if I pay tax in Taiwan 20%, I go to EU, should I pay heavy tax? And what are the most relevant tax? So most relevantly, we look at corporate income tax and VAT, and obviously I think Taiwan have a lot of how do I say, hardware business, so we deal a lot of importation, so obviously tariff is also important. So if you look at corporate tax rate, Germany has like roughly 30% plus or minus tax, and then Czech Republic and UK has rather similar to Taiwan, like 19%, 20% tax. So that's sort of high-level understanding of their corporate tax rate. And then VAT, Taiwan's VAT is 5%. So most of businessmen, if they talk to me and saying, understand, oh, the VAT in Europe is around, you know, the lowest VAT rate I understand is Luxembourg, it's 15%. All of them are above 15%. So you see the chart here, most of them is around 21%, and the rate is based on the turnover. So it's actually important tax, but most of the B2B transaction, the VAT should not be a cost. It should be a, you know, it should only be taxed on the added value. So it's important for business to understand that, you know, how to follow all the administration and making sure this VAT will not become a cost for your business model. I think many of you have maybe heard that Netherlands is a good import or entry point to go to EU, and a lot of the reason is around their VAT, import VAT deferral system, where if you understand, sorry, it's a little bit technical, but I think to give everybody some of the flavor here. So if you bring the goods, let's say bring the goods into Taiwan, when the goods touch the custom border, you have to pay import VAT. Our import VAT is 5%, right? But if you move the goods, let's say for instance into Germany, and then you have to pay 19% on your import value. And so that's probably a big cost for you, right? And then you can only refund that VAT until you sell the goods or move the goods to other countries, right? So if you have a system where when you import the goods, you can claim deferral, so you don't need to pay the VAT upfront, right? And then you can claim the import credit later on, and that gave you some cash flow benefit. So among like different member states have different offering, and like I think Yancy in his keynote speech mentioned, diversity is a very important I think element when you do business in EU. So every country have different rules, and Netherlands offer like, you know, permanent let's say deferral of the import VAT, which attracts obviously a lot of business. But some other countries like Germany or UK have like some deferral system as well, but it may be not as long as permanent, but maybe a month or something. So really depends on like where you do business and what's your turnover rate and what's your business model to really decide. And I think the common question I often have is that if my main business, main market is in Germany, and I understand that, hey, Netherlands or like Luxembourg or Belgium have lower tax, can I set up a company, because EU should be a one single market, right? It should be one single region. So I can set up a company somewhere and then do business in otherwhere, which can create some complexity and difficulties. So that's also important to know. Now, the last role, you see treaty with Taiwan. So Taiwan, obviously, I think diplomatically or international position-wise, we are under some of the pressure, right? But we do have pretty good income tax treaty network with European countries. So with all these main investment countries, we all have tax treaty, which can also provide some benefit from tax areas. So this is sort of treaty network for everybody's information. And looking at Europe, so all these main important markets like Germany, UK, you know, Netherlands, and then we do have a lot of manufacturing footprints in Poland, in Hungary, in, you know, Czech Republic, all these countries that Taiwan have treaties with. If I can move on, sorry, it doesn't, okay. All right, I try to. All right. Now, I think the main business model that if Taiwanese business I observe to go to Europe, it's either you set up a trading company there, right, for doing buy and sell, or you have manufacturing sites there, or like if you do acquisition, like what Yancy mentioned in his presentation, then you probably buy some like high technical company, and then you might, you know, have an R&D center like Delta has in Europe. Now, if in all these different business models, sorry, I cannot put this in the middle. Thank you very much. Now, let's look at the middle role where you have a trading company there. What kind of tax issue do you normally have, right? Firstly, if you do buy and sell, then you have to import goods and sell to the customers in EU, meaning you have to distribute goods. So obviously, custom duty, VAT is the immediate tax issue you have to face. Now, Taiwan, I think we oftentimes are the supply chain for a lot of European or US brand company, right? So we produce key components, we manufacture for this branded companies, and oftentimes we have to cooperate with our customers in order to deliver our goods. So like if Taiwan needs to import goods in the name of Taiwan company, it's also possible, but it would have also tax implications there, right? So I think that's something important, and oftentimes if we set up a European company, it would be 100% owned by the Taiwanese parent company. So the pricing between these two group companies are governed also by the tax provision called transfer pricing, which you cannot just determine or monopoly whatever pricing you're going to sell to the European trading company, and then sort of shifting profits among your group companies to sort of evade tax, and that's important tax issue, and I think most of the European countries focus a lot on that. So that's what we call transfer pricing issues here. So I'm not going to go very deep, but it just give you some of the high-level thoughts about all this, and for instance, like if you have manufacturing sites there, you have to decide like what kind of manufacturing business model that you have, right? Because if you think about our manufacturing model, oftentimes I think Taiwan's business have very heavy material or component costs in our products, right? Now, if you have so-called like if you have the manufacturing company in Europe to import goods and to own the goods, which means their cost elements will include all the cost of the material, right? Your tax might be imposed or calculated based on those material costs, right? But if you have only a manufacturing service company, and your business model can be very different, and your tax burden can be different, and so that's also important. And a manufacturing company in Europe, I think a lot of companies focusing on getting incentive. So incentive is also tax incentive is also another important area that company would focus. I think this is also a very commonly asked question, and people really focus on this. That when I first enter Europe, I think the first question is, should I set up a company? Should I not set up a company? Right? Can I use an external agent to help me to distribute my products to the European market, or can I just hire maybe some sales representative and then help me to promote my products, and then I can use Taiwanese company to directly distribute to European company, or I have to set up a European sales company in wherever my market is. So this is also a business decision, but there is also a tax element in there, right? So that's, I think, another area people always ask. Or like last month I helped another client saying, "Hi, I want to sell to Germany. Can I have my rep office set up in Netherlands? Does that work?" That's oftentimes I think people will ask these questions, and you need to focus also, pay attention to how you design your tax structure. Another, I think, important element is Brexit, right? So I think in the past, like when UK still belonged to EU, we oftentimes like have one European headquarter and then expand to different markets, UK being one of them. But now if Brexit becomes hard Brexit, which can be, I cannot predict, it's still under negotiation like our previous discussion. But let's imagine if UK becomes another, just another independent country from EU, but normally you have quite a big trading relationship or business model between UK and the EU, right? Then for instance, like if you have your EU distribution center set up in in Rotterdam, for example, in the Netherlands, and then if you want to move goods from Rotterdam to UK, if Brexit really happened, I mean hard Brexit really happened, then you have to pay import duty in UK when you bring the goods, right? If you bring goods to the Netherlands, you have to pay duty, and then if you bring the goods from Netherlands to UK, you have to pay duty again. So this changes your supply chain. And the VAT system supposedly should be harmonized. When I say harmonized, meaning that all the EU countries have their own VAT system. However, the VAT system mostly have sort of bridging mechanism, like you can refund, you can claim credits when you move the goods among EU. But then if UK become not part of the EU for tax purposes, then really then the VAT also will become a burden. And a lot of companies would say, hey, typically, historically, I have UK as a holding company to EU. Does it still apply, or should I change it because of Brexit? So that's also, I think, one important topic people always pay attention to. Sorry, if you can help me to move down a bit. I'm almost done. So this is, I think, a bit technical, but anti-tax avoidance directive is one of the initiatives that EU proposed to follow so-called BEPS. BEPS is so-called base erosion and profit shifting. So basically, it's sort of making sure multinational does not do any aggressive tax planning. So this is the EU law, and you see the timetable, and now we are 2020. So basically, all this regime, like interest limitation regime or general anti-tax avoidance regulation and so on, they are all implemented. And basically, when this is an EU directive, meaning that all the EU member states have to implement the law based on the EU framework. So like typically, we think that for instance, like Ireland may have like some pretty friendly tax regime, or Netherlands, but because of this ATAD, a lot of the EU tax regime changed. So that's also important information to know to how to manage this. So moving down, if you may, yeah. This is also not a technical area, but this is important because this happened from this year, July 1st. It's called DOC 6, which means like the company or like tax advisor like me or lawyers as an intermediary have to disclose certain structure to the member states' governments or tax authorities to promote tax transparency. So a lot of Taiwanese companies having some, let's say, business with EU, they sort of oversee this new regulation. So I think I'm not going into detail about this today, but just reminding everybody this is new and this is live, and supposedly a lot of disclosure should be done already by August 31st this year, which has already passed. But due to COVID-19, a lot of this deadline has been extended to next year. But again, every different member states have different deadline. So like, for instance, Germany say, hey, EU recommend me because of OECD, because of COVID-19 to extend the deadline for 6 months. But Germany say, no, we're not going to extend it. But some other countries say, hey, we're going to extend it. So this is also important to be mindful about all this compliance burden if you want to do business in EU. So moving down to the final page, I think this is all good. Yeah, please move down. Down. One more. Okay, let's stop the page above. Sorry, if I can. Okay, here I think I just want to add on Yanci's keynote speech. I think M&A is definitely very important approach to expand or set up business in EU, right? And I think M&A or deals will become more due to COVID-19 because all the interest rate is very low, and a lot of European companies now, because of their profit position or operational results, may have rather low value at this current point of time. So because of low interest, a lot of companies have rather more fund, and so it's possible that we expect more and more M&A deal would happen, and Europe is obviously a good let's say market or place that we can do M&A deals. Now. I just want to remind everyone, when you do M&A, normally you think about business angle, and then you think about, hey, legally, am I taking over some legal burden from this this target company, which the company that I want to acquire? Then we would think about tax. Am I, taking over a lot of tax risk or, tax burden of this company? So we would do so-called due diligence, meaning that I hire somebody professional to look at, the tax or legal implications of the target company I want to buy. But oftentimes we overlook the important tax aspects after I acquire this company, right? So like, for instance, like if I take this as an example, a Taiwanese company acquire a German group. Now this German group, let's say it costs 100 million, right? Then I pay this 100 million to the original shareholder of this German company, right? This German shareholder will pay tax. Then I thought, hey, this is my company. I own 100%. Yeah, I can do whatever I can. Then I would think from business angle, what kind of advantage that I buy from this company? Maybe technical, maybe intangible property, or maybe their brand, right? Then I probably want to integrate this German group with my Taiwanese company. For instance, like I'm good at manufacturing, they're good at R&D. So I say, hey, I'm gonna change all your supply chain, have Taiwan to sell to Germany, or have Taiwan to directly sell to this German group's customers, and then have this German company purely become a call center for us. Like, I pay them to do business for me, right? Whenever you change this business model, they are still considered independent from the tax angle, if I may say that. So for instance, like if you move in a turnover to Taiwanese legal entity, the German, according to tax law in Germany, there could be a tax implications, right? So for instance, like if I pay 100 million to buy this company, I have valuation report saying, for instance, the customer list worth 30 million. And if I move all the turnover to Taiwan, actually you owe 30 million of income to the German tax authority, could be, right? Then you probably need to pay a lot of tax due to this restructuring decision. So I think the reminder that I want to give to everybody is that, before we start our further discussion, it's indeed complex, and a lot of things are sort of more than what we used to in Taiwan. So I think it's EU market has a lot of potential and attractiveness for Taiwanese business, but tax is always a very important aspect. People should be mindful and then playing ahead, making sure that you don't cause any additional costs because of tax. I think that's where I want to add on. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, very good that Paulson has shared his experience on experience in Europe, right? And you also bring up several cases, several examples. But I think that tax issues are always important for a special Taiwanese company are very sensitive to tax issues. Yeah, but later on they could talk to you. So no problem, okay? And that's a shift to the bright side of the story, okay? That's go back to the EIF, the European Investment Fund, right? It's online, right? Okay, please. Yeah, please. Yeah, you may proceed. Nathan?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Nitan Patak. I'm today, this morning in Luxembourg at the European Investment Fund headquarters where we are located, and I'm happy to participate to this conference. We're here today to address the topic of one of the European institutions that is promoting private market in Europe. And the purpose and objective of my presentation is to walk you through who we are and how is it that we are accessing private markets, so companies that are not listed in Europe and that are representing a very good opportunity for investment. So my team at the European Investment Fund, I'm working with a very mixed international team. We have a Taiwanese national, Sun Yang, who is looking after the relationship with Taiwan. And I will invite you to get in touch, if you have further questions. So next slide, please. So the European Investment Fund is playing a key role in Europe, and it is important to understand a little bit how we are structured in order to see how the capital that we are collecting is put to the benefit of small and medium enterprise. So as you can see on the left side, we have all the resources coming from the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, member state and private investors. We are a AAA rating institution, which is a public-private partnership. That means that everything we do needs to also bring a certain return on investment. So we're not issuing grant, we're making investments. And in terms of solutions, we offer equity solution and debt solution. We never invest directly into companies. What we do, we select financial intermediaries that are themselves investing into small and medium enterprise. So as you see, we select financial intermediaries like venture capital funds, growth capital funds, social impact funds, technology transfer funds. So all these funds, they are located in Europe. We commit a certain amount, and then they invest into small and medium enterprise in Europe. On the debt side, we deal with banks who are the financial intermediaries, that we are extending a securitization or guarantee product that they are themselves offering to small and medium enterprises as a cap or uncapped guarantee tool. So everything here is about financing SMEs. And we do some 150 transactions a year, so 150 fund in which we invest, which represents some 4 billion euro of investments into private equity funds. And we do some 6 billion of debt transaction as well. Next slide, please. We have an international presence as being part of the European Investment Bank group. So we are a bit scattered all over the world, trying to support local operations through our mother company, the European Investment Bank. And mainly the European Investment Fund is focusing on Europe and investing in private equity funds in Europe. So we have been active in China, in Taiwan, in India, in Australia. So there's a lot of different countries we have been acting upon through the group. However, today's presentation is about how is it that we can make it easier for non-European investors and parties to access Europe. So as Paulson said before, Europe is extremely complex in terms of tax, legal, compliance structure, and therefore what we are offering is our expertise as a one-stop shop to private markets in Europe. Next slide, please. So we have been doing this job over the last 20 years, and these little bubbles are showing our track record and our experience, our long-lasting experience, and the way we are extremely knowledgeable about the market across Europe. So over the last 20 years, we have invested in some 850 funds. Currently, we have 9,000 to 10,000 active portfolio companies. So these are companies in the life science sector, in industrial tech sector, in artificial intelligence, that the funds we have been investing in are invested in. So that means that we see the development of these companies, and some of them are looking for international partners, some of them are looking for co-investment opportunity, and all this we would like to offer, to potential partners. So in terms of visibility, we see 99%, which means that every fund that is raising a fund, every team is coming to the EIF to ask for advice and to ask for a commitment. We don't invest in everything, but we do see everything. Up to now, our historical signature are about 21 billion euro, and we have invested in various funds. Some funds were extremely successful in terms of return on investment. Some were less, but they have met some policy objective. In other words, when we want to make sure that we create a new market in the Munich area, in the biotech, for example, sector, 15 years ago, we have incubated a couple of funds that are now becoming extremely successful. We have some 65 people that are working on a full time in assessing and selecting and doing due diligence of funds. And this is actually the capability that we would like to extend to partner, which means if you are looking at investing into a private equity or venture capital fund in Europe, then you should contact us and we would like to help you in making the right choice. Now, given the fact that we have already invested into a lot of funds, there are a lot of secondary opportunities where we are kind of buying stakes from other investors into funds that are already existent. And this secondary market opportunity in Europe is an extremely trendy market and very profitable at this stage. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we are having a dual type of investment opportunity. If we look on my left side, what we see is that we have the role of a market developer. So we are kind of setting up new teams. We are helping new teams emerge, and we call them the emerging managers. So we have a dedicated budget where, for example, if we have an extremely focused thematic fund that is doing medtech for artificial intelligence purposes, then what we do is we are selecting this fund, and it's a completely new fund. It's extremely focused. It is a new team, very high risk. So we will take the risk to invest into that fund in order to create an ecosystem that maybe in 4 or 5 years will show some sign of success. So this high risk investment in unproven opportunities that we are following as the European Investment Fund. If we look on my right side, then we look that we are also continuing to support proven funds with proven track record. So these are funds that have the 9th generation of funds that are extremely successful in terms of financial performance, but we are still supporting to make sure that they're getting maybe a bigger fund in place so they can support more small and medium enterprise, and that we are also getting the return that maybe will balance out some of the money that we might lose by supporting policy objective funds. So it's an extremely unique approach that the EIF has that is due to the public-private partnership status of ours, which means we have a public mission, but we have also a financial-driven mission. And I think we are uniquely placed to offer this type of strategy. Next slide, please. So this is to come back to the fact that we are return-driven. So when we looked at the compelling value creation since 2011 across 3 different strategies, so investing into technology, life science, and growth capital, or we call it also mid-market, you can see that on a 10-year basis, the net IRR is of 15.4%, 14.1% and 11.9% respectively. So we took a pool of some 200 funds to do so, and we can see that we are investing into funds that are extremely performant in terms of return on investment. So why are we showing that is because a lot of entities that we are talking to are asking us, how is it that you balance the policy objective with the return objective? And we have set up some new instruments dedicated for investors that are willing to entrust us with money to make sure that they are getting their performance objective achieved while they get exposed to the European market. Next slide, please. So, as said before in the presentation of my colleagues, Europe is fragmented, but it's also there's a strength, of ours because we have a lot of hubs. So, the UK up to now was one of our focus. But, if we look at Sweden, Germany, France, and Spain that are still in Europe, we see that recently we have, companies that are seeking some more than 100 million, euro financing round. That means that it is just to a bit tackle, what we see in the US, which is seen as the reference, but we are trying to push that, a view of it with respect to the fact that, in Europe, we see a lot of big companies growing up in the private market. So it's not just very small companies, but it is, starting to have like an ecosystem of startup or unicorn as well that are, significant. All these companies are also very keen to expand internationally. So they are looking for partners, outside of Europe to expand. And as you know, Asia is one of the key focus for European company to expand their customer base and to be able to push their products, outside the Europe. So it's important to address, the European opportunity through these hubs, into these different cities in Europe. Next slide, please. So just to give a couple of names, of who all these companies are. So you can see on this slide, all the unicorns, so realized and unrealized. That means unicorns are companies that are valued at $1 billion plus, and realized and unrealized mean these are some companies that went IPO and that were both by other players, and some are still active in our portfolio. So you can see that whether it's in the fintech, space where you have like known company like Revolut or iSettle or N26, these are all companies that we have been investing through venture capital and private equity funds. You have also like some interesting companies, in the deep tech and software space, like Data-IQ, which has been recently, reached the $1 billion, dollar valuation, which is a fund, called Alven in France that has been investing. So if you look at the ecosystem of funds, whether it's Dawn Capital, Alven, Sofinova, Creandum, all these funds that are scattered across the Nordics, the mainland south and north of Europe, I mean, you can see that they are addressing a lot of good companies, and there are more, companies that are growing, as we speak. And this is, what we would like to offer to our partner on the international base is how is it that you connect, in a good way to all these successful companies. Next slide, please. So finally, what is the core competence of the EIF? Because there are all these big numbers and all these nice logos of companies. But what we do is very simple and at the same time extremely complex. Our core competence and what we are known for is our ability to select the right financial intermediaries through a very thorough due diligence process. And I thought it was important to close, the presentation with this slide, because this is more to the interest of what is it that we will do for you if we partner, in the future. We will actually use this, what we call the magic triangle, in order to do a thorough due diligence process. So what we do, we look at the team that is managing the fund, whether this team has the adequate skill, whether they have a good track record, which means that they do good investment in the past. Are they aligned in terms of commitment, and are they well paid, to do the job on the long term, knowing the fact that private equity investments is a very long-term investment. It's a 10 years long investment, which is 5 years of investment period and 5 years of divestment period. So it's like a long-lasting marriage where everything needs to be well balanced, for you to be happy with your investments. We do a lot of reputation check or reference check because we know a lot of people in the industry. So whenever there's a fund coming to us, we call, other people to know whether, this team is extremely competent or if there are issues. And in terms of governance, which is, related to tax and legal structure as well, we look in terms of, what is the governance structure, because the governance structure in France is not the same in Spain, and we need to make the thorough analysis. If we look at the bottom, the other side of the triangle, we are looking at the market opportunity. So for example, if we have a fund, that is offering a market opportunity in the semiconductor hardware space in Grenoble, we know that despite, ST Microelectronics as a major player over there who is doing a lot of design, hardware, is not maybe the strategy to pursue for the fund because they will not have enough deal flow. So we have industry experts that are looking at each industry segment and defining the trends and understanding whether the fund strategy in terms of sector focus, for example, is something sound and whether there's a market opportunity. And therefore, our sector expertise is also a very important factor in making the due diligence. Finally, we look, if you look on the left side at the fund parameters. So this is the quantitative analysis. So a lot of modeling and Excel-based, and we have a couple of new tools that we use in order to simulate what the fund will look like in terms of quant and in terms of capital deployment. So we look at, whether the fund will be having a well-risk diversified portfolio of companies, whether they are disciplined enough to support those companies on the long term, what are the terms and conditions of the fund, and whether in terms of legal structure and compliance, so that involves also a tax aspect, everything is clean. Tax is an extremely difficult topic in Europe, and if you have a fund that is located in Germany and in France at the same time, you need to comply, with the tax regulation, and we make sure that those are done in the highest standard. So in a nutshell, if we combine these three analyses, it's what defines the investment strategy of the fund. And this is what we are good at dissecting and understanding before we make a commitment. So after we do all this document work or this analysis work that ends up into a 100-page or 150-page document, we use that to make an investment recommendation to our board, and we allocate a given amount to each transaction. So as I said previously, we do 150 transactions of that sort every year, which represent 4 billion euro of new commitment into private equity and venture capital funds. And the ticket that we put into each fund range between 15 million to 120 million, never exceeding 30% of the size of the fund at any time. Therefore, I think the opportunity, and these are my closing words, the opportunity that we are trying to address here is how is it that we can engage with non-European partners, and in this case, Taiwanese investors and partners that will be keen to have a look at what is happening in Europe, and we will be very keen in a way or another to help you feel and understand, the beauty of the investment landscape of the private markets in Europe. Many thanks for your attention. The last slide is showing the team that I'm leading, and I would invite you to get in touch with one of your fellow compatriot, Sun Yang, that is working in the team. And also, do not hesitate to contact me anytime if you have any question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Actually, it seems to me that the EIF European Invest Fund is a fund behind over 120 funds that support the growth of small and medium enterprises. Okay, so indirectly support the growth of the whole industry. And we have a little bit less than 30 minutes left, but I think that we have learned from 4 speakers about the legal framework and the taxation system, and also the EIF, and also the experience shared by Yanxi. And I think that many of you would like curious how you may proceed. Okay, but time is limited. So right now we are open for questions. So anyone of the audience could bring up your question, and you could use English or you could use Mandarin. Paulson will translate that question into English, no problem. Okay, so anyone in the audience who would like to bring up any question?
So， 各位与会贵宾，如果有问题的话，可以举手提问，而且请举手的时候，麻烦请简单自我介绍您的姓名跟单位。If you have any questions, please raise your hand and tell us your name and organization. We have professional simultaneous interpreters today, so we don't need Paulson to be so stressed out. We have professional interpreters to do the work. 那我们今天全场也有专业的同步口译员会替他进行口译服务，所以用中文、用英文提问都可以。好，请问在座的各位朋友有没有任何的问题呢？
Yes, please.
稍等一下，好不好？我们请用麦克风，谢谢。
Hi, my name is Cindy. I'm an investment manager from ITIC. So my question is directed to Nathan. Hi, Nathan. Great presentation. So I'm just curious, what kind of strategy changes or adjustments have you made since the COVID-19 started? And also, what are some new opportunities that you found since this began? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. We have had the obligation to respond very quickly to the COVID situation that is affecting very hardly small and medium enterprise in Europe. And therefore, what we have done with the help of the European Commission and the member states, we have defined a new vehicle, and collected significant amount of additional capital to be able to continue, or I would say increase, what we are good at doing. So we are not doing anything new with respect to our core competence, which is supporting financial intermediaries, but we are doing more and faster. We have actually, in terms of the target funds in which we invest, we have allocated a little bit of capital or resources to restructuring funds to allow some funds to come to help to some companies that need some restructuring. We have also allocated some capital to some funds that are COVID specific funds. So we have some that are supporting in a way or another medical technology development or life science development as a general case to respond to the COVID situation. So all in all, we have kind of developed several tools, in order to support this situation. So things have changed in Europe drastically, but fortunately, the robustness of the European ecosystem, is the one we are betting on in terms of increasing the amount of investment and supporting further, SMEs. There's also, of course, some challenges in terms of import-export that is falling out of our remittance, and maybe Alessandra from the Commission, maybe she can also comment on some of the action that the Commission has taken to respond to COVID-19 situation.
Hello, thank you very much, Nathan. And
yeah.
Any more questions from the audience? Where? Oh yes, please.
I'm Simon from AUO. This question is perhaps to Paulson. Netherlands, Euro is a great place for investments, right? And also Netherlands has a lot of tax treaties, many countries. And I've seen some structure that Taiwanese company are investing in US through the Netherlands, meaning making Netherlands both as a hub for European business as well as a holding company for the international operations. Can you please comment on that structure?
Sure. Great question. Thank you very much. So indeed, because I think one of the main markets, US, obviously for Taiwanese business, and Europe is actually from tax angle, indeed can be a stepstone to the United States. For instance, like we see a lot of structure using UK or Netherlands investing into United States, right? But I think from the business angle, like the management normally will consider whether these two businesses complemented each other, right? So because, and then I think to answer this question, yes, I can give you maybe figures, like if Taiwan business directly invest into US, I think we all know that US have, again, more complex tax system, but if you earn money in the United States, you pay corporate tax, like 21%, according to Donald Trump, new administration. You pay 21% to the US tax authority. The money left can be repatriated back to Taiwan headquarters, all right? But then you have to pay additional 30% withholding tax out of the taxable income, the after-tax income, or what we call return earnings. So anyway, the profit left at the US, if you pay back to Taiwan, you have to pay additional 30% withholding tax. If you have the Dutch holding company or you have a UK holding company, you might be able to reduce that withholding tax to 5% or 0%. And that's because of the treaty between Netherlands or UK with the United States, and also the treaty between Taiwan and UK and the Netherlands. Now, but you cannot just use an empty company to just set up a box company in the Netherlands without any of the operation activities in the Netherlands. So we do help, and then I think you need to think from different angles. One from Taiwan headquarter tax angles, then the intermediary holding company, for instance, Netherlands tax angles, and then the United States tax angles. So if I may give you one of my recent example that working for another client. So they have the US company operating in the United States, and they have accumulated very high income from the past. We help them to restructure and having the Dutch company in the middle. Now you have two benefits, because Taiwan is going to implement control foreign company regime, which is another anti-tax avoidance regime following the global BEPS initiative, which means like if you park your profits in some low tax country, then the Taiwan tax authority have the right to tax before the income are paid back to Taiwan, right? So for instance, like in the past, that structure was Taiwan, and then you have a tax-free or tax haven like BVI or Cayman Island, and then United States. We see this structure a lot in Taiwan business. If you have control foreign company, all the money earned by US will be taxed by Taiwan, even the money don't come back. Now we help them to govern that because of that anti-tax avoidance regime, we restructure the BVI company to become a Netherlands Dutch company above US company. The benefit is that because my slide, Netherlands has tax rate of 25%. It's not a tax-free haven, right? So according to Taiwan law, it would not be considered as a controlled foreign company. Then for the United States, because the treaty between US and Netherlands, you can enjoy the tax treaty benefit to reduce withholding tax from 30% to 5%. So that's another benefit. So I think, long story short, sorry to get a little bit technical, but that's about tax. But indeed, I think that structure is can be considered, and a lot of multinational companies have similar structure. If we look at the U.S. multinational, well, we understand that they have their foreign investment normally through the Netherlands or UK or Ireland to the other countries in the world. So indeed, there are good relationship in that respect, I think. Yeah. Thank you.
I believe that many companies probably have the same questions. So after this forum, probably if they have any questions, they could call you, right?
Sure, of course.
Contact information.
It'll be my
okay?
pleasure, yeah.
And you will stay here for lunch?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, so it's easier to talk to you during lunch. Because the consultation during lunch is free, right? Okay. Okay, so any more questions from the audience, please? Yeah, please, yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. I think my question will be to Ms. Alessandra. So my name is Agnieszka Tracz and I'm from Moldex 3D. We are a Taiwanese company. We have a software and basically we already have an office in Netherlands. So right now I am evaluating the possibility that we should maybe open more offices in Europe, more representatives in Europe. And my question is, does it make any sense? Shall we use the Dutch office to hire, for example, employees in other countries like Poland or Hungary or Czech Republic or Austria? Or we should just focus on some other better way to run the business, because obviously sales are dropping and COVID-19 is not helping anyone. So maybe somebody can give me some good direction here. Thank you.
I understand the question is for me, right? Yes. Yes, so thank you. Thank you for your question. That gives us the opportunity to repeat that, in fact, the EU gives this opportunity of a single market where people can move freely. So we had touch upon the free movement of people and freedom of establishment. So this is what allows, for example, myself, being an Italian citizen, to establish myself and work as a lawyer in Belgium without any specific requirements in terms of work permit. So getting back to your questions, definitely the presence of your branch or representative office in one of the member states gives you the opportunity to proceed with the hiring of the relevant skilled personnel or people you're looking for in any of the member states. So from any of the member states, you mentioned Polish or French or German staff, that would be certainly an opportunity not to miss from the Dutch establishment.
If I may add a little bit flavor on top of it, Alexandra. So I think we also have that similar question from a lot of Taiwanese business. Can I have one legal entity set up in one of the member states and then have all the employees hired in other member states, right? Should I set up another legal entity? Should it be a subsidiary or a branch? Or can I just simply pay salary from the Dutch company to Italian employees, right? But I think, I believe, obviously, yes, it's free movement of people, but I think from the employment perspective, you do need to, let's say, follow a lot of compliance burden regarding like the payroll withholding tax, the social benefit requirements and so on, right? So if I'm a Dutch company, then I have to pay salary to an Italian company. I need to follow all this payroll administration law in Italy. Same apply to all the other countries. And I've a lot of, let's say, previous experiences understanding that it can be sometimes difficult without a legal entity setting up there. And so we do see some structure that where you have one legal entity set up in a Dutch company, and then I have maybe employees in Italy and then Germany. Then I have a branch set up, which is not a, it's not a independent legal entity, but it's sort of extension of the legal entity in other member states. And then by the branch, you can pay salary, you can comply with all this payroll administration and social security benefits requirements. So that's also a structure which are commonly seen. I think I just want to maybe just add on some of the this part. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you both. Any more questions from the audience? Yeah, please.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Pathak, and it is the following. I saw in the list of companies a unicorn and yet to be unicorn that you showed, a number of foreign companies like Spotify. And that was kind of surprising to me because I thought that might be an opportunity for this audience. In other words, is there a way that Taiwanese companies could come to Europe, and what's the criteria for them, when I say come to Europe, to access you not as an investor, but actually as a platform, as a fund for you to, as a company for you to invest in? And that, in my view, is quite important because although we heard that M&A was a good option, I have worries about that given that the European Commission is, stepping up on its efforts regarding not only investment screenings, but also subsidies. Yeah, I mean, especially, of course, Chinese SOEs, but it may go well beyond. So I think this is a different way to think about cooperation, which is greenfield, and whether the European Investment Fund could be one of the options for this type of cooperation. Thank you.
Many thanks for the question. I think you're right. I mean, there's different ways of accessing the European market and getting funding as well. So Spotify, for example, is a company that has been financed through a venture capital fund called Creandum, which is based in Denmark. What happened is the company, benefited from local investments and support. And then when it went IPO, it went to the US to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange, which sometimes is a bit painful for us to see because we see a European company, moving to another part of the world. However, it still has a lot of the engineers, that are based in Europe. The capital that is raised through an IPO process is also redistributed to different kind of European entities, Spotify. So at the end, it's a success story. So we could imagine eventually a Taiwanese company setting up, some of the operation in Europe and benefiting from, grants or investments or support in any form from European entities. So if you are a startup or company that is based out of any country in Europe, you benefit from the European ecosystem. Of course, there are some checks to be done, that it's not, so that there's substance, locally. So it's not just an address, but if you're employing people and you're having some value add, I think this is exactly the point. I think it's a very good destination, not only for them accessing the local market, but also accessing to all the support that the European institutions are putting in place, for the need of local SMEs.
Because time is limited, so happy time is always limited. Okay, so we have to leave several minutes to Yanxi to reiterate his good experience to go to Europe. Okay, Yanxi, could you say something?
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I said a lot of things in my presentation, but at the end, I say, okay, if you have not set up anything in Europe, you go there, take a look, maybe set up something. Start from sales and marketing, and then you tour the R&D facilities, including universities and some of the research institutes. Got to know the place. If you have already have an office there, and you like to expand, of course organic growth is one. Another one is the merger and the acquisition. And there's a warning for you guys nowadays because of the COVID-19. So a lot of people say, oh, a lot of companies, they are going to be in trouble. So it's time to buy. It's they are going to have cash flow problem. So you could go so-called the bottom fishing. Okay, 中文叫捡便宜. Don't do that. Okay, because if you bought something, you think it's cheap, but the problem is the after merger or acquisition integration. Okay. As a Taiwanese company, our experience was that we don't have the capability to do the so-called turnaround situation. Okay, if you want to buy something, okay, this company should have strategic value to you. Okay? Either they have the technology you don't have, or they have the the market you don't have, or they have the organization, the people. Okay, you don't go there and say, hey, their revenue is $100 million a year, so I pay 50. It's a good deal. Okay, don't do that. Okay, so that's my last advice to you.
Thank you, Yanxi. That I appreciate that. We have a very good time for this session. That we have 4 panelists that they share experience, but because time is quite limited, we have to conclude this session. But I have to mention that in the afternoon we still have 3 more sections in parallel. Okay, one is ICT, another one is biotech and healthcare, and third one is mobility and automotive. So you are interested in specific sectors, please stay for lunch and also join the seminar in the forum in the afternoon. Just as Philip said this morning that we have to change before we have to. We change before we have to. Okay, so that's go Europe. Okay, but it's already 12:30. That's a go to lunch. Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you all the audience. Thank you.
我们的论坛到此圆满完成，热烈的掌声！谢谢主持人和与谈人精彩的讨论，请留在台上大合照。So this concludes our panel discussion.
Thank you very much.
So once again, thank you to our moderator and thank you to our panelists. 不好意思，我们请台上的贵宾在台上合照好吗？谢谢。那在此也提醒贵宾呢，我们下午有3个分场。就如刚才主持人所说，资通讯呢在201第1会议室，移动载具与自动化在201 BC 会议室，生技与健康产业在4楼的贵宾厅。那我们下午2点会准时开始，请大家提早，因为报名的人比较多，请大家1点45分可以开始报到。如果需要停车券的话，欢迎请到报到处领取，一车可以领取5张，1张1个小时。那另外也提醒贵宾，我们在201的门口有 QR code， 请大家扫描之后填完问卷，可以出示截图给工作人员，就可以领取小礼物。另外也提醒大家，我们在 EETO 还有 EBRC 的网站有完整的欧盟投资手册，欢迎大家可以下载。 So this concludes the morning session. There are 3 breakout sessions in the afternoon. Please go to room 201DE for ICT, room 201BC for mobility and automotive, and VIP room on the 4th floor for biotech and healthcare. And if you need a parking voucher, please go to